everyone, and welcome to Quizzin Hers, the podcast where we test each other's knowledge and the strength of our relationship. My name is Hallie. I am here today with my fiance and competition, Justin.
Hello.
Mostly thinking of him as competition right now.
Yep, it's the end of the season. Everything gets super cutthroat.
Yep, So
we're sleeping in different apartments right now.
Oh yeah, no, we're not. We used to, but now we don't.
Yes.
In season 1, we were.
That's true.
We are not anymore.
That's true. I was in Chicago for work when we recorded season 1. Anyway,
for anyone who is new, the way the podcast works is each game we take turns asking the other person 6 questions from 6 different categories, and they are tied together through a common theme. The 6 categories we do are times and places, arts and literature, sounds and screens, sports and games, science, and everything else. And then we'll talk a little bit about each topic. Justin is currently losing.
Yep.
13-11.
Yep.
So basically, he needs to get more than 2 questions right today to win the season. It is the last game.
Yep.
And he can be the first 2-time champion.
With 3 correct answers, I will be the first ever 2-time champion.
But with 2 correct answers, we will tie, and then he will freak out.
We'll have to figure out a tiebreaker or something.
Okay.
Hopefully that won't happen.
Mini tiebreaker episode or something.
Oh God. Yeah, we could do we could just go each write 1 question right now.
Yeah.
Forever.
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
All right, let's do it.
Are you ready for today's theme?
Yep.
Okay, so give it to me straight. Which name do you prefer? Let's get our facts straight or straight up quizzin'.
What?
It's all about straits.
Oh, like the body of water?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And I got 3 straits in there.
Oh, those are very good. Yeah.
Thank you. I like them.
Nice.
I was like, my first thought was like straight up quizzin', and then I was like, wow, there are just so many expressions that have the word straight in them. And then I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna include them all.
Nice.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think of the weirdest themes.
Yes, you do.
But it'll be fun.
At least this title's in English, not Morse code.
That's true. That is an improvement for me. I didn't want to end the season on such a weird note.
Okay.
Okay. Are you ready for question 1?
I'm ready.
All right. Question 1 is sports and games.
Okay.
Which strait in Western Europe has its own swimming association after it became an officially recognized feat to swim across it when Thomas William Burgess became the first person to do it on September 6, 1911?
Where is it?
Western Europe.
Western Europe? Strait of Gibraltar? But we've already talked about Gibraltar, so that's going to be wrong.
I'll give you, I don't know what you want to do here.
Yeah, I'll go with it. Strait of Gibraltar.
No, silly.
What is it?
It's the English Channel.
Oh, I forget that's a strait. I think of it as just the English Channel.
Well, the strait, I figured I would make the question easier, but the actual strait that the majority of people are swimming across is called the Strait of Dover.
Ah.
Which I knew you wouldn't know Strait of Dover, so I
No.
figured the English Channel would be acceptable.
Yeah,
It's the only thing I've ever heard of people really swimming across for sport. So, any natural body of water. People have swum, I think, across the Strait of Gibraltar, but it's not like there's not like a whole swimming association. It's not as big a deal.
Okay.
But yeah, the Strait of Dover. I'll get into it.
Okay.
Sorry, I really thought you were going to get that one. Ooh, maybe I will win.
Okay.
Keep in mind, I wrote these questions before we knew that the scores would be so close.
Yes, I know.
Okay. So, the first recorded swim across the English Channel was on August 24th, 1875 by Captain Matthew Webb. He swam across the Strait of Dover, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
It's the narrowest part of the English Channel. It's from Dover to Calais in France.
Okay.
So that's basically where in the English Channel these swims usually happen.
Okay.
2 years prior to this, he decided to quit his job and train for the swim after he read about a failed attempt by J.B. Johnson. Talk about dedication.
Yeah.
During the swim that day, he was stung by jellyfish and was thrown off course for 5 hours by the currents off, I don't know if I can pronounce this, Cape Gris in France. Definitely saying it wrong.
Okay.
But his total swim time was 21 hours and 40 minutes. The length he actually swam was believed to be about 40 miles with all the zigzagging.
Wow.
It's not that far.
How wide is it how long is it if you do it point to point?
I think it's like 30.
Okay.
It's less.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was kind of going back and forth a bit.
Uh-huh.
But he made it. And then in 1911, Thomas William Burgess, known as Bill Burgess, swam across the Dover Strait on his 16th attempt. It took him 22 hours and 35 minutes, but he had only trained for 18 hours prior to the swim, which is not much.
So he trained for less time than it took him to do it?
Yes.
Huh. That's insane.
Yes, it is, but he did it. So,
okay.
Yeah. Also, Bill Burgess had previously won a bronze medal playing water polo for France in the 1900 Olympics.
Cool.
Yeah.
Water polo is fun. We'll talk about that at some point, I'm sure.
Probably. We hadn't talked about swimming yet, so.
Yeah.
The third person and first American to successfully cross the channel was Henry Sullivan, a marathon swimmer. He completed the swim in August 1923 after 27 hours and 25 minutes. People seem to be getting slower for some reason. I'm not sure.
That's weird.
I thought 21 hours and 40 minutes by the first guy was a lot, but anyway. Finally, someone beat the record, also in August 1923. It was Enrique Tirabacchi from Argentina, who completed the swim in just 16 hours and 33 minutes and he beat the record by 5 whole hours.
Yeah.
So it's pretty good. He was also the first person to make the swim starting on the French side of the channel. Maybe that's why it was quicker, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
So the following month, Charles Toth from Boston completed the swim in 16 hours and 40 minutes. That summer, the Daily Sketch, a British tabloid newspaper, had a contest where people could win £1,000 if they successfully made the swim, but Toth missed the deadline by just 2 days.
Oops.
Sullivan and Tirabacchi both got it, though.
Mm-hmm.
The next successful swim, and the first one by a woman, was by Gertrude Ederle, an American competition swimmer.
Oh, I've heard that name.
Yeah, I think she's pretty famous.
Yeah, okay.
Prior to her English Channel swim in 1926, she won the gold medal in the 4x100 meter freestyle relay at the 1924 Olympics. She also received bronze medals for the 100 meter freestyle and the 400 meter freestyle races that year. Before her successful English Channel swim, she trained with Bill Burgess, who we talked about earlier.
Mm-hmm.
She completed the swim in just 14 hours and 34 minutes, which was the record at the time.
Awesome.
So, go women. And speaking of which, a couple of weeks later, Amelia Gade Corson, along with 2 men, attempted the swim at the same time. Prior to the swim, she had made a wager with Lloyd's of London, throwback to a previous episode,
Yep.
betting that she would succeed in the swim. Both men she started with dropped out pretty early in the swim. But, with her husband at her side in a boat and giving her hot chocolate, crackers, and sugar lumps, Amelia managed to finish the swim in just 15 hours and 29 minutes. And she got a payout of $100,000 at odds of 20-1 from Lloyd's of London.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
That doesn't count as cheating? Like getting fed along the way? Like
No,
by
all
someone
of
in a
them
boat?
do. All of these swims involve somebody with you. I'll get into it.
Okay.
At this, basically, I'm about to talk about it, but
okay.
But none of these are just like a dude swimming on their own for 20 hours.
I mean, that feels like cheating, but okay.
It's not cheating. Like, you can't get out. You can't get, like, onto the boat.
Okay.
You can't stop swimming.
Right.
But I don't think these people are continuously actively swimming. I think they're treading water a lot of the time to, like, relax and eat something, because it's a long time.
Yeah, okay.
So, I don't think it's possible to do, as far as, well, it might be now, but, I mean, I'll tell you.
Okay.
So, in 1927, the English Channel Swimming Association was formed to have a set of rules to govern swimming across the channel. They decided that to be officially recognized, the swim had to be from England to France. Since then, the CSA has observed and authenticated all swims across the Strait of Dover. In order to be officially recognized, the swimmer must be registered with the CSA, have their swim observed by association officials, agree to the rules of the association, and have to be escorted by pilots registered with the association on ships registered with the association.
Mm-hmm.
So none of these people are just going out on their own.
Uh-huh.
The most recent recognized swim was in 2018 by Leah Chowdhury, who was the first British Asian woman to complete the swim. The current speed record is held by Trent Grimsey from Australia, who made the swim in 6 hours and 55 minutes.
What?
So something tells me he was probably just swimming straight the whole time.
Yeah.
Like, I think these really long ones were like, they were not as fit, so they were getting tired, and they were just like hanging out, treading water for half the time.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Whereas now, like, I think people, train super hard and then are able to just go.
Holy shit.
There's also like an 11-year-old that did it and a 12-year-old that did it.
What?
Yeah. I want Michael Phelps to do it.
Well,
I'm curious.
He's not really like a distance guy, though. He's a speed guy.
That's true, but I think speed probably helps because you can do it faster.
Yeah, but you need the endurance to be able to go for 6 hours or whatever.
Yeah. I can swim for a really long time. I still haven't found my limit. I'm not fast, but I can swim, for a very long time. I still don't know how far. I've swum across, like, a pretty wide lake once somewhere in camp.
Probably wasn't wide.
No, it definitely wasn't that far, but I wasn't that tired by the end. So, like, as far as I know, I can swim pretty far, but I've never done it. Like, I used to swim laps and not get tired. I just know that I can't be fast because I had to quit the swim team because I was too slow. But I enjoy it, and it's nice for fun.
Yeah.
Not competition. Okay. Are you ready for question 2?
Yep.
Times and places.
Okay.
What strait, also known as the Strait of Istanbul, connects the Black Sea and the Sea of Marmara, and also the Aegean and Mediterranean seas via the Dardanelles?
The Bosporus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is the Bosporus.
Yes, okay. That one I know.
Yeah. So, the name Bosporus comes from the Greek Bosporos, which means cattle strait. This is because, in Greek mythology, it was believed that Io transformed into a cow and was fated to wander the earth until she crossed over the Bosporus. When she crossed the Bosporus, she met the Titan Prometheus, who told her that Zeus could return her to human form. It is also believed that Jason defeated the Symplegades? I don't know. Some other mythology thing.
Okay.
AKA clashing rocks, that's what Symplegades means. Which used to send rocks rolling down the hillsides into ships in the Bosporus. So, like I said in the question, the Bosporus connects the Near East and Eurasia to the Mediterranean and the Balkans. It has connections to the Atlantic Ocean via the Gibraltar Strait, which you mentioned before, and to the Indian Ocean via the Suez Canal.
Ah, yeah.
One hypothesis about its formation, called the Black Sea Deluge hypothesis, says that the ocean rose 72.5 meters after the last ice age and opened up the Bosporus. Throughout history, the Bosporus has always been important from a military as well as a commercial perspective and is still important today. In the 5th century BCE, King Darius I of the Persian Achaemenid Empire crossed through the Bosporus in his attempt to conquer the Scythian horsemen. He did this by crossing a bridge across the Bosporus made by Achaemenid boats. The location was so important to Roman Emperor Constantine that he decided to found his capital, Constantinople, there. At this point, the expressions cross the Bosporus and swim the Bosporus began being used to mean a religious conversion to the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Huh.
Yeah,
I've never heard that. That's cool.
I don't think we have such a need for that expression anymore.
Right, yeah.
But back then, that's
interesting.
That's what they said, yeah. But it's also pretty cool, I think, about Darius and how he crossed on a bridge made of boats.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Istanbul was Constantinople. Now it's Istanbul, not Constantinople.
Thank you for that enlightening information for everyone.
That's a little They Might Be Giants reference for you there.
Yes, okay. You can't help yourself.
I can't.
You
I love
can't
that song.
mention Istanbul or Constantinople without singing the song.
I like that song a lot.
I know, I like it too. During the 12th century, it was known as Prosphorion, which was also the name of the oldest northern harbor of Constantinople. The Bosporus was actually sometimes called the Strait of Constantinople.
Mm-hmm.
In 1453, the Ottoman Empire conquered Constantinople, and they used it to expand their regional goals and take control of the area near the Black Sea. They referred to the Black Sea as an Ottoman lake. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. In 1833, the Treaty of Hunkar-Iskelesi was signed, which said that the Bosporus and Dardanelles were closed to the Russians. Then, in 1841, the London Straits Convention between Russia, the United Kingdom, France, Austria, and Prussia re-established the Ottoman Empire's rules that had closed the Turkish straits to Russian warships.
Mm.
After World War I, the Treaty of Sèvres completely demilitarized the strait and gave the League of Nations control over it. Just a few years later, the Treaty of Lausanne gave control of the straits back to the Turkish, but also allowed any commercial shipping vessels or foreign warships to travel freely through them. The Montreux Convention regarding the regime of Turkish straits in 1936, which is still in force today, said that the Bosporus was an international shipping lane, but that only Turkey had the rights to restrict the naval passages of states not in the Black Sea area.
Okay.
So that's kind of, yeah.
That's like the current precedent?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Also, in 2011, the Turkish government wanted to start a large-scale canal project about 80 kilometers or 50 miles long that runs north to south and could form a second waterway from the Black Sea to Marmara, but it's still being debated. There are 2 suspension bridges and a cable bridge that go across the Bosporus, which are the 15th July Martyrs Bridge the Fatih Sultan Mehmet Bridge, and the Yavuz Sultan Selim Bridge.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm never going to remember those names, but hopefully they don't come up. But the Bosporus will come up.
Yeah, definitely. Okay.
Okay. Are you ready for question 3?
Yep.
It is sounds and screen. In what 1985 spy film does the protagonist fight Max Zorin, a psychopathic businessman, on the Golden Gate Bridge, ending in Zorin falling into the water below, known as Golden Gate Strait?
1985? 1985 spy film.
You need one more to tie. Just saying.
Yes, I know.
Okay.
Well, if it was a Bond movie, that would be the Dalton era, I think. But why would that be in the US? That would be in Britain. So I'm just gonna guess one of the Dalton Bond movies because I can't think of anything. A View to a Kill.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I hate you.
Is it really?
I'm so pissed off. It's not a Dalton Bond movie.
What?
It's Roger Moore.
View to a Kill is more?
Yeah, it's his last one.
What the
Unbelievable. You fell into that answer. I'm so mad.
What was the Dalton one? Oh, License to Kill, not View to a Kill. That's
oh my god, if you had just said what you actually meant, you would have gotten that wrong. I hate you.
You know what? Doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there.
Unbelievable. Oh my god, I can't deal with you.
I must have known somewhere in the back of my brain that A View to a Kill had to do with the Golden Gate Bridge. I must have heard a question like that before.
Sure.
I must have. There's no, like, how else would I have gotten there? That must have been something I've heard.
Okay, fine. Whatever.
Okay.
Boo. You stink. Okay. Unbelievable. Anyway, A View to a Kill is the 14th film in the James Bond series and the 7th and last to star Roger Moore as James Bond and Lois Maxwell as Miss Moneypenny. It was adapted from Ian Fleming's novel From a View to a Kill. In the film, James Bond is sent to Siberia to find the body of 003 and recoup a microchip from the Soviet Union. When he returns to MI6, Q analyzes the microchip and finds that it was made by Zorin Industries to withstand an electromagnetic pulse. Bond goes to the Ascot racecourse to spy on Max Zorin, the company's owner. He then meets with a French private detective who tells Bond that Zorin is having a horse sale later that month, because he's involved in the horse race.
Mm-hmm.
While at dinner, the detective is assassinated by Mayday, Zorin's bodyguard who escapes from Bond.
Okay.
Working with Sir Godfrey Tibbett, a racehorse trainer and MI6 agent, Bond breaks into Zorin's lab during the horse sale. They find that Zorin has been implanting devices into the horses which release adrenaline. Zorin tells Mayday to assassinate Bond and Tibbett, but he only gets... Ooh, I should change that. She only gets to Tibbett. I didn't realize Mayday was a woman until I finished reading this. I assumed. That's horrible of me. Anyway, so she only gets to Tibbett. Bond escapes. However, Zorin thinks that Bond was assassinated as well.
Mm-hmm.
It is then revealed that Zorin was trained and financed by the KGB, but has gone rogue. At this point, Zorin tells his investors about his plan to destroy Silicon Valley to have a monopoly over the microchip industry. Ooh.
Okay.
Scary. Anyway. Later, Bond travels to an oil rig owned by Zorin near San Francisco. He meets state geologist Stacy Sutton, whose family's oil business might be purchased by Zorin. Bond and Sutton get into Zorin's mine and find out that he has plans to detonate explosives beneath the lakes under the Hayward and San Andreas faults to put Silicon Valley underwater. Zorin's workers flood the mines while they are down there, and Sutton escapes, but Bond and Mayday are trapped. Realizing that Zorin has abandoned her, Mayday helps Bond get rid of the bomb by putting it into a minecart and pushing it out of the mine. Unfortunately, she has to stay in the cart to make it roll out of the mine, and it ultimately kills her.
Okay.
So that was very nice of her.
Yeah. Redemption.
Yeah. So finally, on to the last part involving the Golden Gate Bridge. Zorin has abducted Sutton on an airship, and Bond is able to grab onto the rope, which is apparently called a mooring rope.
Yeah.
Did not realize that. But it's like that classic movie trope.
Yeah.
So Bond guides the airship towards the Golden Gate Bridge, and Zorin pursues Bond and Sutton onto the bridge with an axe from somewhere. Zorin and Bond have a fight, which ends in Zorin falling to his death in the Golden Gate Strait. In the film, Zorin is played by Christopher Walken. The role was originally offered to David Bowie, but he turned it down, which is a fun fact. I basically read that he turned it down because he was like, I don't really want to spend all these hours sitting there while a stunt double does all this work. Like, I think he just thought it sounded boring.
I think I've seen this. Now that you said it was Christopher Walken,
I was going to put that in the
this more
question,
clearly.
and then I was like, I feel like that makes it too easy.
Yeah, no, I think I have seen this one, or maybe part of it.
Okay. Sutton is played by Tanya Roberts, and Mayday is played by Grace Jones. Also, Sir Godfrey Tibbett is played by Patrick McNee, who I talked about in episode 2 of Quizzin Hers a very long time ago.
This also feels like something we could have talked about in our 80s action movie episode with Phil Better.
Very true. I could have, but I didn't. But there are a lot of choices. There are a lot of 80s action movies.
Yeah, there are.
The theme song, called A View to a Kill, was performed by Duran Duran.
Yes.
And Rotten Tomatoes gives the movie a 37%, and the main criticism is that Roger Moore was 57 when it filmed. It was also Moore's least favorite Bond film, mainly because he thought it was uncharacteristically gory. What?
Nothing.
He's rolling his eyes.
Yeah, Roger Moore is the worst Bond, so I don't care what he says.
Okay, fine.
He's right that this is uncharacteristically gory for his run as Bond.
Yeah, I guess he
didn't like it. But
that's
because his run was, goofy and terrible, so...
Okay, well, he didn't like it. The only award it was nominated for was a Golden Raspberry Award nomination for Worst Actress for Tanya Roberts, but she didn't even win, so I guess it just wasn't very memorable.
Throwback to one of my recent episodes.
About the Golden Raspberries.
That was last season, I guess? Yeah.
What was that theme?
The Matrix, the sequel, the Matrix sequels were both nominated for Worst Director.
Right.
Yeah. I think that was last season.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you get the next one, you win.
Yes.
I think you will.
Okay, bring it.
It's okay. Alright, it's science. In the Bali Strait, which separates Java and Bali, the temperature of the water can change drastically due to what seasonal wind changes accompanied by precipitation changes?
Seasonal wind changes?
Yeah.
Is it like I don't know if you can answer this, but is it like a name of a phenomenon, or is it like a general term? Or I'm not quite sure what's being asked for here.
Both? I don't know. Just answer the question.
Alright, monsoons?
Yeah.
Okay.
I shouldn't give you any help.
You didn't!
I know, I'm just saying I shouldn't give you any
You didn't answer the question, and so I took a guess.
Alright, well, your guesses are always right, so aren't you special?
Yes! 2-time champ.
It must be...
It is nice. It is nice.
A good guesser. Must feel good.
It's good to be the king. In the immortal words of Mel Brooks. Okay. Tell me about monsoons.
Okay. So, the traditional definition of monsoon is what I said in the question about wind reversal accompanied by precipitation changes.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is now usually used to describe seasonal changes in atmospheric circulation and precipitation and involves asymmetric heating of land and sea. The term monsoon is usually used to refer to the rainy phase of the seasonal cycle, even though it also includes a dry phase.
See, that's why I wasn't sure about the guess, because
nobody knows that.
Yeah, I think of the monsoons as referring to the storms themselves rather than the atmospheric phenomena that cause them.
Well, you thought wrong and you still got the question right, so good for you.
Well, it was the only meteorological term that I associate with that part of the world.
Yeah, there was really nothing else.
I didn't think that was going to be right, but yeah.
Yeah, that was it. So,
okay.
The main monsoon systems are the West African and Asia-Australian monsoons. The word monsoon comes from the Arabic word masim. Based on studies of plant fossils in China and sediment records from the South China Sea, it is believed that the Asian monsoon began 15 to 20 million years ago. Another study of marine plankton showed that the Indian monsoon strengthened about 5 million years ago. Soon after, during an ice period, the sea level fell and the Indonesian seaway between the Pacific and Indian Oceans closed. After this, the cold waters from the Pacific couldn't get into the Indian Ocean, so it's possible that the increase in temperatures in the Indian Ocean increased the intensity of the monsoon.
Okay.
The reason that monsoons occur is because the temperature on land is significantly cooler or warmer than the temperature of the ocean. This happens because land and oceans absorb heat differently. Oceans have a more stable temperature because they have a high heat capacity due to equilibration provided by conduction and convection. Land is not as stable because dirt, sand, and rocks can only transmit heat via conduction and not convection.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
So what is the difference between conduction and convection then?
It's hard to explain. I wish I remembered. Convection is literally the heat transfer due to the bulk movement of molecules within fluids.
Uh-huh.
Such as gases and liquids.
So that's...
Which land is
that's
not.
by air.
That's convection.
And then conduction is by direct contact?
So so conduction is transmitted through a substance when there's any difference, without movement of anything. It's just from...
I see. Okay. Yeah, so, I understand intuitively that, like, water temperature is more stable than air temperature, and, like, water retains heat and lets it off slowly, but I don't really understand the physics of it that well.
That's it.
Okay.
Okay, so just listen to what we just said.
Do you want to say it once more?
Convection is the one that's passed through air and water.
Mm-hmm.
Conduction is the one that's just passed through two things that are, like, touching each other and not moving.
Okay, makes sense. So, like, a convection oven moves heat through the air, whereas if you're cooking on the stove, it's by conduction.
Yeah.
Because the pot is touching the heat source.
As far as I know, yes.
Okay.
During warmer months, the sun is heating both the land and the oceans, but land temperatures rise more quickly because of what we just talked about.
Right.
As the land gets warmer, an area of low pressure develops above it, while the air above the ocean stays at a higher pressure. This pressure difference causes sea breezes to blow from the ocean onto the land, which brings the moist air over the land. Then the moist air rises over the land and starts to flow back towards the ocean, but before it gets there, it cools down, which decreases the ability of the air to hold it, and that causes the rain to happen over the land.
Right, okay.
In the colder months, the cycle is reversed, and the land cools faster than the ocean, so the land air has a higher pressure than the ocean air, and this causes the precipitation to happen over the oceans instead of over the land. The monsoon cycles can mean as little as slightly more rain in some areas, and can mean as much as turning a desert into a green grassland in other areas.
Wow.
For example, in the Western Ghats mountain range in India, it looks like a desert in May, and it's completely covered in grass and totally green by August.
That's very cool.
I saw the pictures. It's very cool.
Wow.
Yep. Okay. This is all meaningless now. No, I'm just kidding. It's all in the pursuit of learning.
Yes.
Okay. Question 5. Everything else. The Foveaux Strait, which separates Stewart Island or Rakiura, New Zealand's third largest island, from the South Island, I know this is confusing, is home to the Bluff Fishery, which harvests what marine bivalve mollusks, which actually help filter out waterways by eating algae. The beginning of that is less important.
This is everything else, not science?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a little sciencey, but it's... Okay, fine. It's a little sciencey.
Okay.
Don't be mad that it's not specifically not sciencey enough.
The bivalve that I most associate with New Zealand is mussels, so I'll say mussels.
No.
Oh, okay.
It's oysters.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about oyster farming, which I don't think is particularly sciencey.
No. It's food and
it's agriculture
industry
and food.
Yeah, okay.
I was like writing it and I was like, this is a little sciencey, but everything is a little something else. So.
Yeah, okay.
Especially everything else.
Yeah.
That was like a tongue twister. Anyway. So oyster farming is a type of aquaculture in which oysters are cultivated for humans to eat. Yum.
I really like that word, aquaculture.
Yeah, it's a great word.
And also yum, oysters are delicious.
I know, I love oysters.
Yes.
So the practice began with the ancient Romans in the 1st century BC on the Italian peninsula. This came to an end, though, when the barbarians invaded.
Mm-hmm.
In 1852, Monsieur de Bonne started to collect oyster spawn to reseed these oyster beds. And that's kind of what, I'll talk about. Not him specifically, just how you collect oyster spawn.
Okay.
It's fascinating.
All right.
So the main oyster species that are farmed for food are the eastern oyster, the Pacific oyster, the Bellon oyster, the Sydney rock oyster, and the southern mud oyster. The eastern oyster is found on the east coast of North America and the Gulf of Mexico. They are also farmed in Puget Sound in Washington state. The main type you usually see on restaurant menus are blue point oysters, which I'm pretty sure we've had.
Oh, yeah.
The Pacific oyster is native to the Pacific coast of Asia, but has been introduced to North America, Australia, Europe, and New Zealand. It's funny, this reminds me of, the invasive species.
I was going to say, is it an invasive species?
I don't think so. Not as far as I read. So the Pacific oysters are usually named after where they're grown, such as Totten Inlet and Fanny Bay. I don't think I've had those.
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah. The Bellon oyster, also known as the European flat oyster, is native to Europe. The ones specifically called Bellon oysters are from the Bellon River estuary in Brittany, France, but they're all technically the same species.
Mm-hmm.
They are also grown in U.S. oyster farms in California, Maine, and Washington. The Sydney rock oyster is native to Australia and New Zealand. They are mainly found in eastern Victoria, along the east coast of New South Wales, and north to Queensland. Lastly, the southern mud oysters are endemic to southern Australia. And there is also another species that was recently discovered known as Kumamoto oysters.
Oh, they're so good.
Which are Justin's favorite.
They are. They're my
I like
favorite.
them a lot too.
They're my favorite raw oysters. They're delicious.
Yeah.
So they were different species?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
I'm about to tell you.
Huh.
It was originally believed that they were a type of Pacific oyster, but it turns out they are their own species.
Huh. Didn't know that.
Yeah, I learned that today.
Cool.
They're very good.
Yeah, they're delicious.
I love oysters. So oysters are mainly farmed in estuaries, which are partially enclosed coastal bodies of water that have higher salinities than fresh water. This is known as brackish water. I feel kind of bad that I just did this right after monsoons. Anyway, it's a little sciencey. The temperature and salinity of the water is controlled to induce spawning and fertilization. Some farmers keep the mature oysters in a separate system so that they can be conditioned better for breeding and can basically trick them into thinking it's the right season for spawning.
Interesting.
Yeah. To spawn the oysters, they put a bunch of them into a tray and quickly heat and cool the water, which induces spawning. They need a lot of them because they can't actually tell which are male and which are female from their outer appearance.
Makes sense.
Yep. They then put the oysters into separate containers and mix the eggs and sperm together to fertilize. The new oysters are grown to a size called spat, meaning that they are big enough to attach themselves to a surface, which is known as a culch. They are then set out to mature. There are 3 methods for doing this. In one method, they set them out on an existing oyster bed to mature naturally.
Mm-hmm.
In the second method, they put them in bags or cages where they're held above the bottom of the bed, and then they can just lift the bags up to collect them.
Right.
In the third method, they put the oysters in a culch inside an artificial maturation tank that can be filled with water that is specially made to accelerate the oyster's growth. So that's like the most expensive way, but, you know.
Right.
It's probably easier because you can keep everything controlled, but it's expensive, so a lot of them just do it, you know, the natural way.
Yeah, I think that's what I've seen. Like, I think I saw like a TV show on this once a while back, and it was like, I remember there were like ropes that had like the oysters were like on stuff attached to the ropes, and so they would just like go out in the boats, pull the ropes up, and get the oysters off. Yeah.
Often after the oysters are farmed, depuration is performed to remove any fecal contamination before being sold to consumers.
That's good.
This is done by pumping tanks with clean water for 48 to 72 hours to fully sterilize them. This is especially important for oysters because they are primarily eaten raw.
Yep.
So I know a lot of people are like afraid to eat them because they're raw, but like they have all of these, you know, requirements. Like I think one of them was like by the UN, like
oh wow,
to
that's cool.
Sterilize these so carefully because you know, gross. So they are preferably eaten raw on their own to fully appreciate the varied flavors. But most restaurants serve them with a mignonette sauce on the side. So I feel like that's a good trivia fact.
Mignonette?
Yeah.
Yeah. I prefer mine with a squeeze of lemon and a dash of hot sauce.
I prefer mine plain. I like to tell the subtle differences in flavors.
Yeah. I think the hot sauce accents the differences in the flavors, personally.
No, he just likes hot sauce on anything.
Basically.
I know.
I mean, I did a whole discussion about chili peppers a couple weeks ago, so.
That's true. So to summarize, just to finish off with something fun. Some classic oyster dishes include angels on horseback, which are oysters wrapped in bacon, and oysters Rockefeller, which are oysters topped with butter, parsley, other green herbs, and breadcrumbs and baked.
Yum.
I've never had angels on horseback, but that sounds great.
I think I've had them once, and yes, it's exactly as good as it sounds.
That sounds really good. Okay.
All right.
Are you ready for the last question?
Yes.
I don't even know how many points you have. You already won.
I
think you had 2? No, 3? You're ahead by 1.
Okay, so I came into the game down by 2.
Yeah, so you got 3.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, are you ready for the last one? You might win this by 1 point.
Yeah. Oh, right, because I got the English channel wrong, and I got oysters wrong. I said mussels.
Yes.
But I got the other 3.
I can't believe you got a view to a kill. That was total luck. I'm going to be so upset if you just win by 1 and it was because of a total guess, like a mistake. Oh my god. All right. Ready for question 6?
Yep.
Arts and literature. In the Odyssey, what is the name of the whirlpool conjuring sea monster which Odysseus encounters in the Strait of Messina, an actual strait between the eastern tip of Sicily and the western tip of Calabria?
Fuck, which one is it?
Well, one is a whirlpool conjuring sea monster, and the other one does not conjure a whirlpool, so it's not my fault if you don't know. Also, you already won. I don't care.
Yeah, no, I know.
I have no sympathy.
I know the names of the 2 monsters.
You just have to.
There, I just forget which is which. I think the whirlpool is Charybdis.
Final answer?
Fuck, it still is, isn't it? Yeah, Charybdis is my final answer.
Yeah, it's Charybdis.
Oh, okay, good.
I didn't know either of them. I don't know anything about, well, now I know everything, but I did not know anything about the Odyssey before.
I read it in like 8th grade, I think, and I remember Scylla and Charybdis, but impressive. I forgot which was which. But I guess I got it. Okay.
So, I'm going to try to summarize the Odyssey, an epic poem spanning 24 books in about 500 words.
Yep.
Spoiler alert, I could not do it in 500 words. It's kind of long.
Okay.
But I feel like it's a good summary, so, you know, obviously these things are useful. You never know when someone's going to ask you Charybdis.
Yeah, the Odyssey comes up an awful lot, so it's definitely good to know.
Yeah. So before I start the summary, everyone should know that it was written by Homer, a Greek poet, and that it is somewhat of a sequel to his first epic poem, the Iliad.
Yep.
These two works are the oldest surviving works of Western literature, having been written at the end of the 8th century BC. So the poem begins right after the Trojan War, which is the subject of the Iliad.
Mm-hmm.
Odysseus, aka Ulysses, the king of Ithaca, has not yet returned from the war because he pissed off Poseidon by blinding his son Cyclops.
That's right.
Yeah, which I get into, because it's sort of a long flashback. Odysseus' son, Telemachus, am I saying this right? Telemachus, oh, that just ruined my whole... You know, when you, like, read a book, like, when you're a little kid and you think of Hermione as Hermione for, like, 5 years until the movie comes out, and then you're just, like, your whole world changes. Anyway.
Okay.
Just brought back memories. So, Telemachus is 20 years old at the start of the poem, and the first 4 books are about his coming of age. At the time, he is living with his mother Penelope and her 108 suitors.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Poseidon is away from Mount Olympus, so Athena asks Zeus to allow Odysseus to return home. She then disguises herself and appears to Telemachus, telling him to gather the leaders of Ithaca to protest his mother's suitors, because they suck.
Right.
And after he is scorned by the suitors, Telemachus leaves for Pylos on mainland Greece to visit King Nestor, who is a soldier with his father. While there, Nestor's son Pisistratus joins him, and they go to Sparta, where they find King Menelaus and his wife Helen. Menelaus tells Telemachus that he heard from the sea god Proteus that Odysseus was the captive of the nymph Calypso. While Telemachus is away from home, his mother's suitors are planning to assassinate him when he returns. Dum dum dum. So, the story then turns back to Odysseus, who is with his captive Calypso. No, not his captive. He's her captive. With his captivator. That's definitely not the right word. Captor.
I'm keeping all of that in, by the way.
That's fine. So he's with his captor Calypso, who has fallen in love with him. The god Hermes orders her to release him, and she sends him off on a raft to head back home. When Poseidon finds out that Odysseus has been released, he destroys the raft, but Odysseus is able to swim to Sherry, where the Phaeacians live. Am I saying any of this right? Do you know?
I don't remember.
Okay, then. While there, he hears a singer performing a narrative poem about his battles in the Trojan War, and he reveals that he is the Odysseus in the poem. He then tells the Phaeacians about his return from Troy over the last 10 years, and we as the reader get to hear it from his perspective.
That's right.
Imagine you, like, go somewhere and, like, people are just, like, reading poems about you, and you're like, oh, wow, that's me. Like, it's so weird.
One day.
Yeah, right? This was before, like, famous people, so I guess this was it. He was, like, the big guy. So no.
Yeah.
He was pretty famous. So, Odysseus' adventures.
Yep.
The first place he and his men head to after the Trojan War is the land of the Cicones, where they fail to raid the city. After this, they try to sail back to Ithaca, but a storm blows them off course to the land of the Lotus Eaters, where Odysseus' men eat the lotus, which makes them forget where they're going. Because apparently lotus is like a magical thing in this world.
Yeah.
Odysseus drags them back to the ship, and then they explore the land of the Cyclops, which is when Poseidon's son, Polyphemus, traps them in a cave and eats the men, and Odysseus blinds him. Odysseus and the rest of the men escape the cave, but Poseidon curses him to 10 years of wandering the sea, which is kind of how this whole thing started.
Right.
The next place they go to is the wind god Aeolus, who gives Odysseus a bag containing all the winds, but when they get close to Ithaca, Odysseus' men greedily open the bag, which blows them back to Aeolus, who refuses to help them again.
God.
He's like, you don't deserve my help anymore, because you're dumb. The next place they go is inhabited by the cannibalistic Laestrygonians. In a surprise attack, they destroy all of Odysseus' ships except his own. His ship then sails to the island of Aeaea. It's literally A-E-A-E-A. Old MacDonald had a farm. This place. I don't know.
Okay.
Like, I have no clue how to pronounce this. But anyway, when they're there, the witch goddess Circe, daughter of Helios, turns half of his men into pigs.
This I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while convincing her to turn his men back to human form, Odysseus is seduced by her, and they live on the island with her for a year. After that year, she helps them leave and tells Odysseus that he has to sail to the land of the dead. While there, the spirit of his mother Anticlea, did I say that right?
I think so.
Or is it Anticlea?
I don't know.
Like Telemachus. Anticlea, let's say.
Okay.
That's where the emphasis goes. So, his mother, Anticlea, tells him about the threat of the suitors going on back in Ithaca. They avoid the enchantment of the sirens by plugging their ears, and then they encounter the six-headed monster Scylla, and the whirlpool of Charybdis, who I mentioned in the question. So Scylla is the six-headed one, and Charybdis is the whirlpool one.
That's right.
They end up on Helios' island, where Odysseus' men eat his cattle, which they were told not to eat, so Zeus curses them to be drowned by Charybdis, and only Odysseus survives and is washed ashore on Calypso's island. She forces him to stay there and be her lover for 7 years, after which he ended up with the Phaeacians telling them this story.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, back to that. After listening to this whole story, the Phaeacians offer to bring him home to Ithaca. He disguises himself as a beggar, basically to spy on how things are going without him. Penelope's suitors insult him, and her servant Euryclea ultimately figures out that he's Odysseus, but he swears her to secrecy.
Mm.
The next day, Penelope decides that the suitors will compete for her hand with an archery competition using Odysseus' old bow. Odysseus himself is the only one who can complete the archery shot. Then he and Telemachus kill all the suitors, and after that, he finally reveals himself to Penelope. In the end, Ithaca is at peace, apparently through some Deus Ex Machina in which Athena just convinces everyone to get along, even though Odysseus killed a ton of people.
Yeah.
So, the end. That was like 900 words.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I felt like it was very informative.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Thank you. It's really hard to summarize an epic poem.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do anything now. I can summarize anything I want. But yeah, that was interesting. I feel like reading it for real would have been way more boring and provide the same amount of information.
Correct. Having read it, I can attest that is true.
So you didn't read the 24 books. You just read
No, we
some
read
translation.
Some abridged version or something.
How long was it? Just like a normal
remember.
8th grade book.
I think so.
So yeah, you might as well just have read these 900 words and you would probably have gotten the same amount.
I certainly remember as much as I do.
I did use Cliff Notes a little bit, which I've never actually used before.
Yeah, well.
Because I'm a goody-goody.
Yeah, well, this is...
This does not count.
No.
Okay, that's it. You win.
Yes!
I think it's... I forget. What is it?
What?
Tell them the score.
Oh.
Does it matter?
Not really, so... We came in 13. Yeah, 15 to 13.
So you got 4.
Yes.
But I wanted you to get 2. It's fine. I didn't think you'd get Charybdis, and I did not think you would get, I don't know, A View to a Kill, because you should not have gotten A View to a Kill. It's okay, though. I feel better now knowing that you did get Charybdis from actual knowledge, so even if you didn't get A View to a Kill, you still would have won.
Yeah.
Because you know more.
I'm telling you, I must have just remembered seeing A View to a Kill when I was a kid, somewhere in the back of my brain.
I've seen so many things. I don't just, have it, the information there.
I mean, you do. It just has to percolate up.
Yeah.
That one that popped into my head at the right time.
Fair enough.
All right.
Well, that finishes up season 3.
Yep.
Definitely let us know your thoughts. We'll take a little time off before season 4, but in the meantime, let us know what you think. If you have any suggestions for next season, you can contact us at quizandhers@gmail.com. We're also Quiz and Hers Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
Yep.
We should be on all podcast platforms.
Yep.
iTunes. Leave us a review.
Stitcher, Spotify, Google.
Leave us all the reviews.
Yeah.
We're on YouTube.
Yep.
If that's your thing. So,
and we'll be back in the middle of April with season 4. Hoping to do a couple of crossover episodes with some of our podcast pals. That's in the works, but I'm not sure if it's going to happen, but we're working on that as well.
Yep.
Like we did last off season, so keep an eye out for those.
Yep. And I guess that's it. And hopefully I will make a nice return next season and bring out the win.
All right, we'll see.
I know. We will. All right. Bye for now.
Bye. And it is to determine the first ever 2-time champion. So let's do this.
Okay.
Alright.
Alright.